but just that, like, she's growing in the game, she loves the game, like, just all of this content, she's teaching people what it's about,
Mhm.
bringing that education piece. So that's the one side, was it was always positive and it was always something to relate to. But another thing that I really, really appreciated was there were some times where it was, I'm using this word and I'm not sure if this is the best word to use, and I've underlined it a bunch of times on my page. It was a little bit confrontational and a little
Mhm.
bit like, these are the comments that we're going to get. Okay, I'm going to respond to them. And I'm
Mhm.
going to talk about women's rugby and I'm going to talk about why it's important and women's sports in general and women's involvement in things that women should be able to be involved in. And just that piece of, you didn't shy away.
Look, hell of an intro. I tell you what you in for, but I never really been the type of dude to give no info.
Welcome everyone to the Walk and Grill Show. It's Ronnie and Courtney on the mic. And for those that still are stuck on the audio version, come on, please, let's get on to the YouTube aspect. So you can see we have a special guest here today with us. And we're going to dive a little bit deeper into Courtney's life and what she talks about when it comes to rugby. And so you guys know, I'm going to really kind of give you guys a little bit of insight. I'm going to be that guy to maybe guide this conversation in a way where, some of those of you that don't understand rugby, like me, because I don't, I'm sorry, I'm guilty of it. But hey, we're all here to learn. We're all here to develop each other. We're here to expand our horizons. So this is what we're going to do here today. We have our special guest, Samantha and Courtney. If you don't mind introducing Samantha
Yes.
so we can really get to hear who she is and hear what you guys got going on in the rugby world.
Yes, of course. And I'm gonna want her to explain a little bit more about who she is, of course, because I'm sure she has a fantastic story to tell, and that's why she's here. But this is someone that I've absolutely looked up to within rugby culture, and someone that, which I think this is the truth for a lot of people, became very popular, and I use the word famous, especially in the rugby community, absolutely famous in the rugby community during the pandemic. So it was just kind of a huge, like, face of positivity and huge advocate for women's rugby and women's sports and like just strength for women in the community. So it's just someone I'm really, really excited. And I just let her know, but I'm really excited to have here to have this conversation with me rather than just kind of be like, Ronnie, I want to talk about rugby today. Is that okay? This is a great person to have that conversation with. And just why it's important. Why would we bring the conversation about rugby to a podcast about personal growth, about mental health, and how do we make that connection? And I hope the part of the message that we bring across today is that it's a very easy connection, and how important it is within the culture. So yeah, of course, it's Samantha Lovett, and again, we talked about this earlier, but a lot of my teammates and friends know her as Sam Love Rugby on Instagram. That's not actually her name, but it is sometimes how we refer to her. But yeah, I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you.
Oh, amazing. What an amazing introduction. Thank you. Well, I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Is there anything that Courtney missed that she just didn't do her job there that you wanted to include in the introduction?
No, that was great. You hyped me up big time. I like that. That was great.
Yay.
Better than the introduction I would have given.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Well, I have lots of questions, so I'm sure if there's any information that we're
Yeah.
looking for, hopefully some of those will lead to the right direction.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of just wanted to start with like how all of this happened,
Mhm.
because to me it's just kind of, I know in the group itself, the quarantine chuggers is
Hmm.
where we found you, which of course we're gonna have to explain because
Yeah.
again, a lot of these topics, I should probably preface, a lot of the stuff is going to be like, okay, I have no idea what they're talking about here. This is very rugby related. And then there's
Uh-huh.
going to be other things that are like, okay, this can expand more to general population conversation.
Yeah.
But if you want to explain that channel, I don't know if that's
Mhm.
really where that rise came from or if that's just where I attribute it.
Yeah, yeah. So that's definitely where I began posting my videos. So, for those that don't know, in the rugby community, the social aspect is huge. We play our games and then we get together after the games with the other team, and we, do women of the match and things like that, and we chug and do boat races, and it's like a big social after the game. So during COVID, for a lot of people, 2 nights of training a week plus a game at the weekend, like everyone, that wasn't part of anyone's life anymore. And it was such a solid part, such an integral part of so many people's lives. And it was just gone suddenly. So A bunch of rugby players got together online. They were actually a big part of the Gypsy Rugby Club, which I'm now a part of as well. It's a touring side that just meet at various places around the States. But a group of those men and women just created a Facebook page called Quarantine Chuggers for Qualified Ruggers. QC for QR, basically. And it was just a Facebook group, and it was just initially just for like a group of friends, a group of teammates, and it blew up. It became like rugby players from all over the world
Yep.
who were missing that aspect about rugby, the social side, all joined it. And I think at its peak, it had like 48,000 members.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
Honestly, just incredible. So,
that's
and
the number I remember.
the whole purpose of the page was you would like introduce yourself by chugging a drink or like a water. It didn't have to be alcoholic. It was just like, because that's what you would do at a rugby social.
Yeah.
So people would chug and introduce themselves and say where they were from. And then from there, the page just became this like center of rugby, like being social with the community, out with your own rugby community, which was so cool. It's somehow like the world shut down, but the rugby community somehow became way more connected through this page. And then, like once everyone introduced themselves, and conversations would start, and like debates about rugby would start, and like memes would get posted and videos would get posted and things like that. And this was also around the time where like TikTok, like the millennials migrated to TikTok because we were so bored and had nothing to do at home and we couldn't work. And so people were on TikTok, and I was trying to figure out TikTok, and I was like seeing all these different trends, and I thought it'd be super funny to make some rugby ones. And the first video I ever made was like this, this like pot of water where I was like putting in different amounts of water and like pretending I was like making one of my teammates, and just basically making like I was like a minority on my team being straight, and most of my teammates are bisexual or gay or just part of that community and dating each other. And a big part of that was like I would just make fun of them, and then I just poured a massive pot into the pot, and like the punchline was just like bad time management and all of these different things about rugby players, and then gay at the end.
I remember that
So it was
video.
just
That's
like
funny.
silly things like that. And those are kind of jokes that within the rugby community we all make about each other every now and again, all in good fun, of course. And we I posted that video, and then that got really big, and then I started just doing more about rugby players and just different aspects of like rugby players' positions and personalities, and just kind of making fun of a lot of stuff to do with our community and bringing like shedding light on it. But yeah, so that's kind of how that got started. And then I started adding them to my own Instagram page, and then the like World Rugby would share some, and they got bigger and bigger, and then I got this following, and then I got to the point where I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to make videos every day. And I did that for a long time during COVID when I had nothing to do, because before this I was a wedding photographer for like 10 years. And of course, during COVID 2020, there was no more weddings, and I am a very creative person, and I had no outlet, so I just poured it into that. So that's kind of how it all got started.
That's so cool.
By essentially making fun of my teammates for all dating each other.
It worked.
It makes sense. It really does make sense. But yeah, and then the rise to like now with PR7s, and what is your actual role within some of those like bigger spots
Yeah.
and bigger competitions?
Essentially, I'm still like a freelance content creator, like a rugby content creator. So I have a contract with PR7s, and I create all their content on their TikTok page and run their TikTok page.
Okay.
But then at their events, like their ID camps and their big events during the summer, the competitions, the tournaments, I'm kind of like a social media host. So I post on their like Instagram live, Instagram stories. I do TikTok live. I just keep people updated about what's going on at the event, and giving little recaps of the games. I go around and I interview the fans and stuff. But Owen Scannell, the CEO, his main reason for bringing me on was to really just like show the fun side of sevens, and sevens is just such a wonderful part of the game. And for those that don't know, rugby union, it's usually 15 players for 80 minutes, but sevens is a shortened version of the game that actually was invented in Melrose in Scotland. So just a shortened, faster, more exciting version of the game. It's 14 minutes, and you play like four to five games a day, and that's what Premier Rugby Sevens is, the first professional sevens league in the US, where men and women all get paid the same. And the equality is a really big part of that company. So that's a big reason why I wanted to be a part of that as well. And it's growing every year. So yeah, and I do videos for World Rugby, and I do videos for Guinness Six Nations, and travel to different tournaments. I do a lot of seven stuff. And LA Sevens, Vancouver Sevens, all that circuit I'm involved in too. So I work with different organizations. It's been really cool. I kind of have to pinch myself sometimes.
Yeah.
So wait, is PR7 an actual, like, it's a pretty much a professional rugby league, if I understand that correctly?
Yes, and it's kind of unique. It's we have like different franchises, and each franchise has like a home city, but the players are actually just from all over the country. And yeah, so there's 8 franchises, so 16 teams total, and they get together for like a week before these tournaments, and they train together. And they all have like equality and equity is a huge part of it, not just with the pay, but each team and how much like their budgets and how long they get to train together during that week. And the training times are very much, they're all scheduled to be very specific times, so they all have the same amount of training as a team. When they all go travel to the city together, they get like 3 or 4 training sessions, and then they compete on the Saturday or Sunday, and then they all go back to their home clubs or their hometowns and things. So it's like a summer, kind of like for the players, it's a summer contract. So like from the there's 3 tournaments if you make it to the championship, and 2 tournaments if you don't. If that makes sense. I could explain it further if you need to.
Yeah, no, I think I pretty much got it for the most part. It sounds like it's just you guys get together. It's a bunch of different people. Same, you guys have a city that's like your brand name. I would guess I can call it, and everyone just gets together for tournaments. I think it's just really regulated when you guys are practicing. So it's not someone has, I guess, an edge over another, because you guys have that structure as well, which is pretty cool. I mean, how is the chemistry typically? I don't know. Do you guys participate in this? Or how's the chemistry with the players?
Some of them, like, they'll come at the start of the week, and some of them may have played on a team together like a few years ago. We also have a lot of Eagles, so US capped players, men and women that have played together for years as well. So some know each other, but what's
Yeah.
really fun is, we've got like Olympians, US Olympians, Naya Tapper, for instance, and Abigastitis, and they're actually on the same team, but we have then we have like Sam Sullivan, who's on a different team. So it's really fun to see them playing against each other.
Yeah.
Some of like the best names in the game. That's super fun because you never get a chance to see them play against each other. But what's so cool, we have like different tiers of players. So we'll have, we've got national players all the way down to players who are just like fresh new talent, like they've just been ID'd at an ID camp. And yeah, that's a big part of it too. We have ID camps all over we have all over North, in the US, and we have one in Canada, just to find new talent for sevens. And it's kind of, it's a pathway for these players, and a step in between them and like their club rugby, and hope becoming a US Eagle one day. And that's where a lot of the scouts are going to be looking and trying to get their players from. So it's a really good opportunity for the players to get time to play with and against these really high level players.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
There
I
you
just
go,
learned
Ronnie.
something. I learned something new about rugby. I kept seeing PR7s. I just couldn't pinpoint what it was and just what it was all about. Obviously, it was about rugby, but it's like I just did not understand it entirely. So I'm glad that you were able to clear that up for me and anybody else that sees PR7s. Now you know
Yes.
what it's all about.
And as someone from a lower level who is not on PR7's league or level, is it's cool to hear the explanation broken down, but also see it from the other side,
Mm-hmm.
where we can have brand new, and like you said, there's a lot of people who are kind of learning the skills and trying to improve their skills, and but we as a just a women's club, not just a women's club, we're a good women's club, but
Yeah.
as a women's club who are bringing people in who've never played before, just
Mm-hmm.
teaching very basic skills, basic rugby, and being able to see we have some players on our team who we know are going to go just that far in sevens, that far in 15s,
Mm-hmm.
and so we're able to say like these players we need to get them to these cities, or they are going to go to these
Mm-hmm.
clinics or things like that, and being able to kind of see from each end how it
Mm-hmm.
connects and how we can get that talent out there, and
Mm-hmm.
there is so much talent, and I've played sports my whole life, but there's really truly nothing like rugby.
Yeah.
And I know in the US, of course, I get a ton of questions like, how did you start rugby? Because if you're not in the community, it's kind of like, how did this happen? Like, it's this
Yeah.
crazy thing. When you're in the community, it's like, there's so many of us. Like, this is so normal.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure if that's a question that you get so much not being from the US or initially living in the US, but how is it that rugby became what you were such a big part of?
Yeah, so it's quite interesting because I people are always really surprised I didn't start playing rugby in Scotland. I actually
Mhm.
started in California.
Okay.
And I played like a couple games. So now we used to do this like traditional game in high school where the fifth year girls and sixth year girls would play against each other. And I played that, and that's kind of where I got my first taste of rugby. But then I didn't. I went to uni and I was more focused on equestrian sports. And then when I moved to California, I was just trying to make new friends. And I had heard that there was a rugby team that they were trying to get back together in San Luis Obispo. So that was my first original team, was SLO in the Southern California League, Southern California Rugby Union, sorry. And
Mhm.
I went, and it's funny. I definitely initially started because I heard about it and I wanted to just make new friends. And then I went, and I went to some training sessions, and I had never played team sports before.
Mm.
And I was kind of uncoordinated and a bit all over the place and just clumsy, and all I could do was run fast. So I was put on the wing, and they just hoped I would catch it and then not do something stupid. And I had to learn to run straight because I would just zigzag all
Mhm.
over the place. And so when I started, I wasn't very good. I mean, no one's amazing when they start. Well, some people are when they because they're just
Uh-huh.
athletes, just natural athletes, not
Just
me.
aggressive and fast.
But what
Yes.
really hooked me to the club was the community. And I was just, yeah, I was like blown away by, like, I didn't know that this, it was my first time realizing that this was a thing, and like all of the little traditions we have, and it's such like a niche little community and culture. And for me, like, I love that kind of stuff. Like, it's so fun, and you can just be yourself. And that was the huge thing for me, like the biggest part, that was like the community, but just like the confidence it gave me to just be as like loud and goofy and ridiculous as I wanted to be. And
Mhm.
as an adult, because you grow up and you think that that parts of you can't really express as much anymore. And in like, I love all my different friends that I have from home and stuff, but like there's really nothing like my rugby friends. I feel like I am
Mm.
my most like true self and uninhibited with my rugby friends. And I just started to appreciate different things about my personality that I had been maybe trying to suppress more. And just different, I appreciated my body more, and I started concentrating on what like my body could do rather than what it looked like. And you don't like, before, I always wanted to be the smallest version of myself, which wasn't the best version, which wasn't the strongest version. And when I was with my rugby friends, I'd be like, after like a good pump at the gym, and like you'd be doing squats and whatever, and your thighs are looking bigger, and I'm like, look at my thighs, look how big they're getting. And like, that's not
Uh-huh.
something I, even as a kid, like I distinctly remember, like, when I was a child, like I was about 8 years old, and I would go to like gym class at school in primary school, and I wouldn't want to wear something because my thighs were big. I mean, I was a tiny
Mhm.
little person at that age,
Mhm.
and to
Mhm.
the fact that like society had made me feel that way about my thighs. I mean, I grew up in the 90s, so it was, the era of, all of that,
Mhm.
before gym girls and like, thighs and butts were celebrated
Mhm.
more. It was always, you got to be twig thin and all that kind of stuff. And I grew up with that. And then it was like, finally, I was just starting to really appreciate my body. And I got so much more confident in so many different areas of my life. Like, I was I just became happier. And that part of the rugby community, especially for women, especially for young girls, you really can't underestimate how good it is for body confidence to be part of any kind of sports team as a woman and as a young girl. And it really, I mean, they've done studies that show that it just really increases body confidence and confidence in all other areas of their life when they're surrounded by groups of women and you're just focusing on what your body can do rather than what it looks like. So for me, that was the big draw. I mean, there's obviously so many more aspects to the community, but that's what kept me around mostly.
So I was one thing I think we should add, because I really appreciate your explanation of everything that you just said, and you're speaking to a prop, so of course that body positivity means so much, and I'll explain. So I think one thing that's important to explain with everything that you just shared is kind of the reason that that is so big in rugby, and
Mm,
part of it is that in rugby your position is based on, of course, skill level and different things that you can do, but your size as well and your strengths. So
mhm.
when I came into rugby, and sometimes you have players that walk up and they're like, okay, we're going to split forwards and backs. The forwards are, I mean, I'm sure you do a great job of explaining this, and I've seen in your videos that you do a great job of explaining it, so I'm actually going to let you do that. But you walk up and they're like, we're going to split forwards and backs. And some people walk up and they're like, hmm. Others of us walk up and they're like, forwards.
Yeah.
So it's very clear what your strengths are and what your body is going to help you to do, and that's the reason that that is so huge in rugby, where other sports it may not be that way.
Mhm,
I think, of course, you use your strengths and you use your body in other sports as well, but it may not be so specific where it's like, this is what your strengths are and this is what your body's capable of, and we're going to use that and we're going to really show that strength. um, so it really does help to build that body confidence like you were talking about. I just wanted to specify a little bit, but
yeah.
I don't know if we necessarily have to break down the game itself, but I wanted to make sure to bring that up, just as that explanation, because it's so true. It really does, and I think that is a huge draw for a lot of people, not just
Yeah.
women.
Mhm,
But the culture, and just that's kind of a piece, like I mentioned, that I wanted to tie in, is that mental health piece and the social
Yeah.
aspect. And I know that I'm not just joining an activity, I'm joining
mhm,
a group of people that are going to be there. And I've never had a group, and I know playing a sport in your adulthood is different than playing a sport, in school, or whatever leagues, other outside leagues you're in as a kid. It's a bit different, but just, I mean, right now the World Cup is on, and every weekend we've met to see the World Cup and do
mhm,
other sports. I know football, of course. Everyone's gathering to watch American football, but just things like that, and how it really brings the community together. And it's just
mhm.
Yeah.
something that I see is huge in rugby specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
You definitely, a lot of people, they'll come for the reason to, stay fit, do something healthy, keep active, and then, they stay for all the other stuff, and
Hmm.
the rugby is like a bonus at the end of the day. It's
Hmm.
almost like you just have this amazing group of friends that you do a ton of stuff with and you see, 2 to 3 times a week. And then you guys just play this sport together too.
mhm.
Yeah, it's just such a wonderful, I love it so much.
Yeah. I think people don't really see the power of a community sometimes, especially when you're new in a whole new state, a whole new country, wherever the case may be. A
Mhm.
community really can help you get with other individuals that have very similar interests like you. And at that point in time,
Yeah.
you can kind of build those relationships from there. So it's like it's like you're taking, I don't know what the real word I'm looking for right now, but you're kind of leapfrogging over, just that
Hmm.
beginning phases of going to a new place. And
Mhm.
especially if you're in a rut right now, just find what you like, understand
Mhm.
what you want to be around, and go find that community. It's somewhere. I
Hmm.
promise, and I can guarantee you that
Hmm.
it's just a matter of finding it. So I'm glad that you guys brought that up, because community is huge, and that's everything we emphasize here, is being part of
Yeah.
a community so that you can go ahead and
Hmm.
take your talents, take your challenges to another level so that you don't feel the way you feel on a regular basis. But no, definitely.
Mhm.
You guys know that there's a rugby community, and you guys know if you want to be a part of, you have two people right here, Courtney and Samantha, that you can reach out to be a part of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and what's just so wonderful about like it, to that point, the community. Like for me, just I've moved around so much, and every new place I've gone, because I am involved in the rugby community, I feel like I had a head start over
Mhm.
other people that maybe didn't weren't involved in a community like that. You know, I'm every place I've gone, I've messaged the rugby club before I even set foot on in that country or that state, and I was like, okay, well, I fly in on the Saturday, so I'm going to come to training on Tuesday, and by Wednesday, I have a community in this new
Mhm.
place in this city I've never been. And this because when I moved to Oklahoma, I'd never been here. I bought a house before I'd even set foot in the state. I went to saw my new house, and then I went to rugby training, and then I had a whole new group of friends, all within like a week of being somewhere. And as an adult, I mean, I'm 36 now. People, it's hard to make friends when you're busy and you've got kids and you're working all the time. And it is, as an adult, it's harder to make friends than, you know, you're not in school every day and you're not, you know, in college
Hmm.
every day. And for me, I just every place I've gone, it's like I have this head start, and rugby's given that to me. And yeah, that part about community is really important.
One thing that I think is maybe unique about rugby community as well is that you don't have to play necessarily.
Hmm.
Of course, you're going to be more involved if you're a player, but our alum are so important to us.
Hmm.
I mean, there's literal, like, we call them like old guy leagues, like old guys that just come out and play and drink a bunch of beer. And like, you
Hmm.
just come support and you're a part of the community. And
Hmm.
we just kind of keep everyone involved. And I think part of, and I can only speak to the US, so I could be completely wrong, but I think part of being in the US is like we understand that we're trying
Hmm.
to grow it and we're trying to have more people involved. Not everybody knows how big this is.
Hmm.
So it is like, welcome everybody. Yeah, tell more people. Like, we do welcome so many people, and um, that it's like, yeah, like, look how big this is. Look how fantastic this can be for so many people. And I
Hmm.
just wanted to add that because I could imagine people listening and like, I am not playing rugby. It's like, okay, but come out and you can still appreciate the sport and you can still
Yeah.
appreciate watching, like, tune into the World Cup. Like, that's, a great place to
Hmm.
start. And it's
Hmm.
so fast, so you're not going to be able to catch on to that level of play. But
Yeah.
just look into it and what clubs are in my area. And I get that a lot where it's like, oh, you play rugby? Like, what type of team do you play for? And I'm like, oh, this club. And oh, like, where do you have to travel to play? And I'm like, there's like 8 clubs right here. And
Hmm.
we do travel to play. We travel to like Southern California. You mentioned the Union, but it's like, no, there's a bunch of teams, and that's just women. Like, men have even more clubs over here, and they're like,
Yeah.
I had no idea that was happening in Phoenix. I'm like, there's a huge community in Phoenix. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
just things like that, that you can be a part of that and not necessarily have to step foot on the field. Of course, we'd love you to,
Hmm.
but yeah, and that's one thing I wanted to go back to a little bit. You talking about the body positivity and
Hmm.
just positivity for women and things like that. And another thing that you mentioned was that you were kind of growing in the game. Like, it wasn't
Hmm.
necessarily that you were the best rugby player that was the reason you started the videos,
Yeah.
which I really, really appreciated and noticed moving through because they were so easy to relate to. And so many of the videos were just like, she just loves the game. Like, it's not
Yeah.
about being, and I don't know if I tend to put you two in a little couplet in my brain, but you and Alona Mar with all
Oh.
your content, which I'm sure is a great person to be in a pair with in my
Yes, thank
brain,
you.
but with your content and with just the positivity and how easy it is to relate to both of you,
Hmm.
um, and yeah, but just that, like, she's growing in the game, she loves the game, like, just all of this content, she's teaching people what it's about,
Hmm.
bringing that education piece. So that's the one side, was it was always positive and it was always something to relate to. But another thing that I really, really appreciated was there were some times where it was, I'm using this word and I'm not sure if this is the best word to use, and I've underlined it a bunch of times on my page. It was a little bit confrontational and a little
Hmm.
bit like, these are the comments that we're going to get. Okay, I'm going to respond to them. And I'm
Hmm.
going to talk about women's rugby, and I'm going to talk about why it's important, and women's sports in general, and women's involvement in things that women should be able to be involved in. And just that piece of, you didn't shy away. And I remember your was it Women's in Sports Day or International Women's Day or one of those posts that was just so straightforward, and I'm just like, yes. And
Oh, thank you.
just
Yeah.
yeah, and almost aggressive. And it's funny because it's like I'm using these words as a woman, like confrontational, aggressive, things like that. But in reality, it's like she's just being serious. But because we're talking to men who are talking down, putting you down in the comments or whatever it is, it's like, oh, she's confrontational, she's aggressive, right? So it's
Yeah.
kind of like, why are we using these words? And is it just
Mhm.
because you're talking about something serious that you're passionate about? So
Yeah.
just kind of that dynamic of super fun, super positive, and super welcoming, but also like, we're not going to take shit.
Yeah.
Like, you know what you're talking about. You really do. And you have such a great platform to do it. I don't know
Yeah. Thank
how you want to
you.
speak on that.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. So I think in the very beginning when I started this, I definitely noticed, like, especially like women who show an interest in sport and then become like personalities on the internet. It's very easy to kind of not like fall into the trap. Maybe that's not the right words, but
Mm-hmm.
like I was very specifically, I didn't want to be known for the way I looked
Mm-hmm.
or selfies I posted or pictures I posted. Like I still love doing that and I like getting dressed up and I'll like share pictures, but like I didn't want to be I really wanted to become known for being more relatable and like making jokes and really
Mm-hmm.
being an advocate for women's rugby and intentionally I would make intentional choices that, maybe it would have been a choice I would make to post something like a picture of me before all this happened, but I started making intentional choices to be to maybe, I don't know if this is the right word, but be less palatable to the men. I wasn't ever
Mm-hmm.
catering to men, and I'm not saying
Mm-hmm.
that women who post pictures like that are. That's not. I
Mm-hmm.
guess I just, because of the industry we're in, and because it's a very male dominated sport, I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
be kind of like go almost over the top and make more intentional choices in the other direction,
Mm-hmm.
because I wanted to be an advocate in that way and I didn't want to just appease people because I wanted more followers or
Mm-hmm.
wanted a certain job. And I got to the point there were like a lot of and there's a lot of rugby pages on Instagram. Not as many anymore, I don't think, but pages that would post about rugby, and then the only time they would post about women's rugby was when it was like a conventionally attractive woman, and
Mm-hmm.
it would often be just fans and it wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
be actual players. And I would be in the comments starting arguments with those
Mm-hmm.
pages and those guys, and I've been blocked from a
Yeah.
lot of them. And I,
Yeah.
because I just, yeah, people can post what they want, but like if you're going to pretend that you're an advocate for women's rugby,
Rugby.
but then
Yeah.
you look at their page and the only pictures they're posting is of like, you
Mm-hmm.
know, like attractive women and attractive fans and just like a random girl who doesn't play rugby in a rugby shirt. And
Mm-hmm.
then there's pages which are even worse that post these memes about women and about it's just, yeah, there's a lot
Yeah.
of crap out there. So I guess I just really wanted to push it in the other direction and be an advocate and like take no shit because there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people, and I understand that people who maybe work for one company or have like a different job outside of rugby and a different yeah, they're just in a position where they can't do that online and they can't argue with people and they can't let
Mm-hmm.
their
Mm-hmm.
opinions be known because they're maybe attached to a certain organization, and they, that's important to people. I don't want people to be losing their jobs, but I just, yeah, I just have like, I just went ahead and that was part of my personality and part of like my mission and what I wanted to do, and just be really straightforward and answer people for me, and because I'm not representing an organization and I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I'm trying to represent just like all of the women in rugby and what we're passionate about and what we would all have. I take great like like I know I feel very, I have like a responsibility because I do have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
And even if it all kind of accidentally happened, I just want to make sure that I'm using it in a way that would like make the women that I'm representing proud and say the things that they wish they could say and people would listen. Because unfortunately, male dominated sport, you often, your take or your opinion on something isn't always as important. And I still see it. I see it all the time, even
Absolutely. Yeah.
at my club, and I love my club. Our club has really grown in the last couple of years. We have a women's team, men's team, and we all like work together, and we share a board and stuff. But it wasn't always as good, and even now, people will show up, and I see just that casual everyday sexism happening at practice,
Mhm.
where like
Mhm.
co-ed practices, and a new guy will show up, and I'm trying to talk to him, and then this other guy who only joined a month ago is
Mhm.
starts talking, and that new guy will instantly listen to him
Mhm.
more, and I'm
Mm.
like,
Yeah.
all right, well, like
Yeah.
it's just, and that happens all the time, and then it happens online too, and
Mhm.
you can't post, it seems like you can't post any, you can't celebrate women's sports without someone saying something dumb in the comments, and like
Mhm.
making it about, like we have a referee that's doing like the TMO, which is
Mhm.
basically behind the fourth referee in a game. So they're looking at a screen while there's like a live game going on, and they're looking for different things that maybe the on-field referees haven't noticed. And during the Rugby World Cup, we have a woman for the first time doing that TMO, and it was posted, and then people are like, oh well, I hope she got it based on her ability and not that she's a woman. And it's like, why
Yeah.
can't you just celebrate it?
Yeah.
Why do you have to
Yeah.
question someone's yeah, so there's so
Yeah.
much of that
It's
online, and
constant.
I try to do my best. But
Yeah.
yes, thank you for mentioning that. It's definitely something I have like actively made a decision to do, because I
Mhm.
know a lot of people can't do that and make a decision not to do it because they want
Mhm.
obviously to put a certain persona forward. But I feel like the only person I really have to answer to is myself, and
Mhm.
I want to make myself proud. So
Yeah. And I
Absolutely.
kind of want to talk about it from a male's perspective, not to say
Mhm.
go about anything you guys just mentioned, but just I see it as well in terms of what you guys. I don't talk bad about anybody, especially behind a keyboard. For all you guys that are on keyboards, on your phones, doing all that tippy tappy stuff, but good for you. It doesn't work. It's just to really fulfill your own ego. But let's
Mhm.
talk about it on a scale of all right. Well, we see the issue. I see the issue. I understand what you guys are saying. What is it that men can do to, I guess, not so much come together, but understand and kind of see what you guys are experiencing and I guess bring more light to the situation. I guess that's kind of what I'm trying to understand a bit
Mhm.
more. And
Yeah.
whoever, if you want, Sam, you want to go first, Courtney? I
Mhm.
just kind of want to hear what you guys have to say in terms of this, so others can hear it as well.
Yeah, I guess I would just say, like, from my experience anyway with my club and how far we've come, I've had so many discussions with the men about how to make our club more equitable and equal for the women and things, and really, really bringing to light. So, like, a lot of times, a lot of guys will be like, "Oh, well, why are we giving why are we giving the X amount of money to the women when?" We only have we the men have been around longer, and that money was raised by the men, and that we there's more of us, so we should get the better field. There's more of us, so we should get more funds, and all of this type of stuff. But it's reminding men that they've had this huge
Mhm.
head start. So in order to build and empower the women in their club, that you have to give them the same treatment as the men are getting, even if there's not as many of us, even if like our stuff, there's less of us, we don't need as many kits and things like that. it's just
Mhm.
it's just treating us the same, and really, like, really soaking it in when somebody says to you, like really thinking about it, and just using like, yeah, sorry, I'm kind of getting stuck on my words here, but just, yeah, just really looking at the past and how we've got
Mhm.
here, and what needs to happen to bring us up to the same level,
Mhm.
of opportunity, because that's what it's about. It's about giving us, we haven't had the opportunity, we haven't had the chance to prove what we could have been. And
Mhm.
this is across all women's sports. I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah.
literally.
in the UK, women were banned from playing football with soccer for years. Referees would be removed from the FA, the Football Association, if they refereed a women's game, like, and they couldn't play on certain pitches and stuff. It was ridiculous. So many sports, we really are behind, and people
Mhm.
will say, "Oh, well, women just aren't interested," and just because they've not seen it. That you need to
Mhm.
see what you need to see
Mhm.
something if you want to become something. So, and that's at the top levels with professional sports, and televised sports, all the way down to these clubs and these amateur clubs, and we need to be giving both clubs just need to be getting the same. The teams need to be getting the same amount of opportunities and support from the club.
Yeah.
And that's conversations I've had with a lot of the men, and they see that now, and they understand it, and they see when they do give us those opportunities that we really thrive. And then of course there's like a lot of discussions just about like all that, the sexism that can happen, and the misogyny that is just inbuilt in so many of us, and so many men and so many women too. We have a lot of internalized misogyny, and unfortunately, and we're trying to like grow out of that, and just the way that the men interact with us and interact with new women, and just like on the board, and the way that we all talk to one another and to make decisions, and yeah. Sorry, I'm kind of rambling now, but yes, I'll stop there, and then
No, you're
Yeah.
right.
No.
You're right though. It's a micro level and a macro level, right? Like
Yeah.
how the clubs are treated, but also how individual women are treated within the clubs.
Mhm.
And it's so important. And I think you spoke to the cycle where it's like we don't get funding, so then we can't put like we could really use more pads. We could really use more equipment. One of the like major people on our club and our previous president, we like want to tackle pads so bad. The one that you land on, like the
Yeah.
mat.
Oh
And we're
yeah.
like, we could just practice with so much more tech because in Arizona, the ground is so hard. Our contact practice,
Mhm.
you just got to pay attention and make sure how can you get your contact in, how can you get your touches in without injury, and
Yeah.
like just the balance of it. So anyway, it's like we could use this, we could use that, and what are the men getting? What kind of funding? Or and it's different on
Mhm.
this level, but so there's that, and just the cycle of it of like, well, that goes into if we don't have those things and we are getting injured or we don't have the right field equipment, so on and so forth, it's harder to recruit. And if we don't have
Mhm.
recruitment, then nobody's going to want to fund us because we don't
Mhm.
have the numbers. So then it's just that big cycle, and there's a lot more to it. I'm giving the nutshell
So
version, but yeah, that cycle of where does it come from.
yeah,
Mhm.
how is rugby funded? Is it funded just by you guys? Is it funded through sponsorships, investors? Like, how do you guys know
Yes.
how that
Yeah.
works?
So, yeah, so each club has like the players have dues that they pay the club to be
Got it.
part of, like, if you're an active member, it'll be if you're an active playing member, it might be more than if you're like a social member, but you pay. And every club is different. Like I know clubs, some clubs charge 100 a year, some charge
Yeah.
500 a year. It just really depends on the level of the club, and how much they're funded. So money comes from the players. You're playing, you pay. You're an adult just playing an amateur sport. So just like if you joined a volleyball league, you would pay. So you pay your club a set amount of money, and then the club. We are registered non-profits, most rugby clubs.
Okay.
So we do fundraising, different fundraising events, and then also sponsorship. We'll have like a lot of like sponsors. Some teams have one, some teams have multiple on their shirts.
Yeah.
A lot of like local companies will sponsor your rugby club and things like that. So sponsorships, fundraising, and then from the players themselves, it's all self funded. And
Got
then
it.
you register with USA Rugby as well, so you have to pay USA Rugby, and then and with your local union, and like the union provides the referees and things like that. So
Mm,
you do get some things back
yeah. Someone,
for
there's
that.
always someone that I call them the mafia. I won't say who they are in this particular situation, but there's always a mafia that you always have to pay to get something in return. But I'm glad that you guys said that. So, how is the recruitment aspect for someone that is trying to get involved, or at least that wants to? Like, what does that look like? Maybe on the PR7s, or I caught the lingo a bit. I can say 15s, right? I think it's 15s
Uh-huh.
too.
Uh-huh.
Or even the club aspect. How does
Mhm.
that work for an individual? And Courtney, if you or
Mhm.
Samantha, if you want to take that
Yeah, I
away.
feel like that'd be more my level down here. But no, if you're brand new to the sport, it's really just about looking in your community because I can
Yeah,
guarantee you they're recruiting. Right? We're always looking, anyone anywhere, we're always looking for people to play, and not necessarily that we're dying for players, but just more so that we're always welcoming new people
yeah,
and always looking to educate and teach. And um and there's different divisions. So there's going to be, Division 1, Division 2, potentially Division 3 in your area. So it just depends what you want to get started with. My club's Division 1, but we always welcome new people because we can always do our best to build them up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would just be my thing, is just look. And that's almost the answer I was going to give to your last question as well, is just kind of pay more attention. And I just mean that in terms of like we're here and we're talking about it. So the more attention you pay, the more the more you're really seeking out and being intentional about it, the more you're going to find it. I know for us, we have our little business card or our flyers at gyms or anywhere you can really post a flyer, with the QR codes. A lot of social media, if you're really interested in your city. I know for Phoenix specifically, if you just search women's rugby, you're going to find Phoenix women's rugby, Tempe women's rugby. You're going to find all these different opportunities, and we're really big on social media. I think we got like kicked off of Tinder for soliciting. Actually, we try everything.
Happened to us too.
Yeah. So we try everything, but so we're all over the place, just because it really is, like we said, it's that community, and that outreach is huge, and just finding people who want to be a part of the game and want to be a part of the family and the group of people that we've created. And so yeah, it's pretty easy to find. I'd say, I know I'm in it, so it's easier for me to say, but I think it's easy to find on this level.
Yeah. And I'll say, like, just if anyone listening and they're like a little apprehensive about it or scared or worried they won't fit in or worried they won't have a position or a part of the club, or even if they haven't played any sports before, like, I can guarantee you turn up to any women's rugby club in the US and they will just be so happy that you're there. It doesn't matter your size or shape or ability. Like, we're growing the game. We're trying to grow the game. Every team is always trying to look for more players and just people to join the community. And, no matter what your background is in sports, you will have something to offer the club. And you'll show up. They'll be super excited. You can say, I've never, touched a rugby ball in my life, and they will help you. Yeah. It's
Exactly.
it's very different. I don't think all sports are like that. And a lot of adult leagues, you show up and they expect you to have played it in high school. And, what's your background? And you're showing up to volleyball leagues and little indoor soccer leagues, and they're not even training. They just meet up for games a lot of these times. But rugby, the huge part of it is we are wanting to teach people this new game, and we love it so much, and we're trying to grow it in the United States.
Definitely.
I think it's a matter of time before it starts growing. Because last time that I'm glad we spoke about women in sports, because the last time that I could really recall like a significant time for women's sports was it was for national basketball. It was Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark when they were going at it for the national championship. That was the last time that I actually heard anything about women's sports, to be honest with you guys. And so I think the more and more and more that you guys are just just sharing what it is that you guys can even get involved in, I'm sure that, I hope, at least that's all I could be. I could be hopeful, right, and play my part in this entire situation. But I think for those that do still comment and do those things, good luck to you. I look at it as, I personally say to myself, and anybody else could really take this. I think women are the most powerful individuals in the world. Because the only reason why I say this though is, who else can carry a baby for 9 months? And I'll just leave it at that. That's just, I know we're going. It has nothing to do with it, but it's just women in general. I think it's just that perspective of it that I have, and I just, like I said, I think they're, and it's not. I'm not saying this because I have two women on the podcast bullying me right now,
giving you the looks.
Hey, you better say something right. No, it's just real life, and I'm glad that we were able to dive deep into hearing a little bit more about rugby and what you guys have going on over there. So some people can take away from this. Go ahead, Courtney.
No, I just want to say a lot of women's rugby players have done both. I know a lot of women who go and have their baby and they're like, yeah, we're back.
Yeah, I've had two. I had two, and I'm back. Yeah, I came back each time, and I've had a bunch of injuries too. All like 3 knee surgeries. 2 of them, one of them while I was pregnant actually, and with my last baby, and now I'm back. It took me a longer to get back this time than after my first, just because of injuries and stuff. But yeah, we are strong. Look at us.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, literally. Baby,
I know. I had to bring it up.
A few months later to just purposefully get hit by people. We're like,
Yep. we had my club, I'm sure a lot of clubs do this, but my club always does like fun awards at the end of the year. So we have our major awards and things like that, but we also have fun awards. And last year, one of our awards was best postpartum performance. And
Oh, I love that.
just things like that, because we do have, and we celebrate them, and those are, it's funny because our teammates have babies and we're like, that's our baby, that's our
Oh,
team
yeah.
baby, you know, like our team had a baby now.
Mhm.
And things like that. So it comes back down to that culture and that community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to use this as a segue a little bit, because speaking of community, I did reach out to a couple of my teammates and let them know who I'd be interviewing this week, or who would be on the show this week. So we were very excited, and I did get some questions from them as well.
Oh, okay.
So if I
Cool.
could ask some of those questions, this is actually a great segue into one of the questions, which I was like, ooh, not that I wasn't going to bring up your injuries, but since you did, I
Oh,
can
yeah.
bring this
No.
up. So just a quick shout out to this is Kylan's question.
Mhm.
She had said, and this is kind of part of that mental health focus as well, which I wanted to make sure we were incorporating, was just how did you overcome some of those like season ending injuries, or the ones where I think
Mhm.
sometimes we've all kind of experienced those injuries where it's like, this is it. You know, initially
Mhm.
you're just like, that's the one. You're like, oh no, but how do you kind of overcome those? And that's physically and mentally.
Yeah, oh gosh, I every time my injury happened, I had that moment where I was like,
Mm-hmm.
it's over. Like this is over. And you're like, I was so dramatic in my own mind. I was like, it's over. I could never run again or play rugby or do anything
Mm-hmm.
fun. And you're just like so sad. And you're just overcome with those emotions. But yeah, it's I guess no like specific like magical recipe or moment that
Mm-hmm.
really helped me, but just time and making sure I stayed involved with the community, and that my team were so welcoming and encouraging the whole time. So what can happen is, I know that like for me it was, I was so sad, and it's like I wanted to retreat from rugby altogether. It made me sad
Mm-hmm.
to watch it. It made me sad to go to practice and not be involved. But I tried to be involved in other ways, like with just making my videos and doing things
Yeah.
like that. But also I started helping out with coaching. I was still part of the board. I did the social media. I just
Mm-hmm.
kept involved and kept myself like surrounded by my rugby community, which then just like slowly but surely I got back into the mindset of like, okay, I'm going to focus on healing. I want to be back involved again. And just, getting through my PT and getting yourself out there, even if you can't take part in the game, in the training, you can just go there and make that like a PT session for yourself, and you do it at the side. You get to see your friends, you get to, you're working on your healing and you're working on your PT, and you're just surrounded by them all, and stay social with everybody. And every team, most teams, I could probably guarantee every team is just still going to welcome their players back to training,
Mm-hmm.
even if you're not, you're not up to, you can't run, or even if you're on crutches. And like, just for teams listening to this, and just anyone in the community, if you do have an injured teammate, a teammate who had to take a step back, do please just keep involving them. Give them a job to do at practice. Maybe they're the person that talks with the rookies that come out.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
The backs and forwards might split, and then you have a little group of rookies going over just
Yep.
passing and just different ball handling skills with that injured teammate. Even if they haven't shown an interest in coaching before, like, just some people might be too shy to want to like say, hey, can I be involved and do something? But like, you're going to retain that player if you just keep
Mm-hmm.
involving them. Make sure you're reaching out and making sure that they're okay, making sure that they know that even if they can't play at the game at the weekend, please come out, and maybe you can help us, sell t-shirts at the side, or
Mm-hmm.
serve beers or whatever you guys do at your games. And
Yeah.
just help out in some way and keep them involved in the community. So that for me was a huge part of like me coming back. And then once I started kind of feeling better again, and I go out and play some touch and go do some like non-contact drills and stuff, and I'd be like, okay, maybe I can get back into this. And I've been so involved, so it's so much easier. So yeah, it definitely takes a lot. But when you're at your lowest, like, you can't go lower than that. So the only way
Mm-hmm.
is really up. So yeah, you're
Yeah.
crying and I could never do this again, and that's the worst of it. And then it's all up from there if you just keep
Yeah.
involved.
Back to that community piece and that culture piece.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. That was another question that I had. One was, this is from Cootie. This is the biggest difference that you've seen within rugby culture in the US versus in the UK, or anywhere else that you've spent some time.
Yeah. So, like I said earlier, I never played in the UK like properly. Like I played a couple fun
Mm-hmm.
games, but I still, because I do talk to a lot of people back there, and I go home a lot, and I do see the community. So, what's interesting is like, yeah, rugby has been around there a lot longer. And it was, invented in England, and it's a big part of the culture there. It's not like, whereas here it's like a tertiary sport. It's like, or no, not
Mm-hmm.
even that. It's like this obscure
Yeah.
sport
Yeah.
that not a lot of people know about or play, and it is getting bigger. So because of that, because our sport is kind of more of like this like unique niche culture, plus it's a growing sport and a new sport that not everybody knows about, I do find that like the communities here are stronger at the amateur level, at the
Okay.
grassroots level, because I feel like we're all part of this mission to grow our sport.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas over there, the sport is already pretty
Mm.
established. The women's clubs are obviously like the men's clubs are obviously far more established than the women's clubs. So the women's clubs are more community based over there, and it's less competitive and less, you know, I guess, yeah, because it's just, yeah, the grassroots level here, it's really hard to compare to anything
Mm-hmm.
else. Like it's very unique, and we people just really lean into like all the
Mm-hmm.
little like niche tradition, all these traditions we
Mm-hmm.
have and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, because we're very aware we're part of this smaller community,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody like puts in so much effort that like where the sport is established, you don't need to put in that much effort to grow your club, but it's
Right.
it's really like this joint effort to grow our sport, and it's this really just wonderful community where we're all just trying to tell everybody about
Get
rugby
the
because
message
nobody
out.
knows about
Yeah.
it, whereas over there
Exactly.
everyone knows about it. It's on the
Yeah.
TV all the time, and it's like a big part of your community. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, here it's definitely, yeah, there definitely, those are the kind of main differences I would notice.
Yeah. Definitely. That's cool. Um, I Okay, this is gonna keep going into culture. I'm like looking at my questions like which one? So this is gonna be a very I mean, this has been a very rugby specific conversation, but this is gonna be right. We're digging deep into this one. We have to know. This is from Cootie as well. Your favorite rugby song.
My favorite rugby song. Oh, uh, gosh, I really like Days of the Week, actually, because
Okay.
that's the one I always lead. That's a really
Yeah,
fun
that makes
one.
sense. That makes sense. It's a
Um,
classic.
Yeah, I like that, and I like that each club can kind of make it
Their own.
uniquely their
Yep.
own, and it's really easy for new people to follow along because
Mm-hmm.
you're
It's a
just
repeat
repeating what
after
the
me
lead that
song.
person's saying. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I like that one, and I like when I've heard lots of different versions of the song, like, and they are obviously, there's like, they're pretty risky sometimes, and I'll go
Yep.
and like hear a men's club sing it, and it's always going to be different than when a women's club sings it, and we
Yep.
and it's funny because like men, yeah, we've had a lot of songs in rugby tradition and culture that have been quite sexist, but what
Mm-hmm.
I love is that women's clubs have taken those songs and like
Mm-hmm.
taken back the power and made it about them and
Mm-hmm.
their sexuality and their it's all
Yep.
their stuff, and it's really funny and definitely not PG, and
Mm-hmm.
definitely you should only be singing it at bars where 21 and overs are in. And not around families. But yeah,
there's
I
a
think
lot
the
of
Days of the Week is fun.
yeah.
I like the 12 Days of Christmas as well. Or the 12, yeah, I think that's what's called 12. Yeah, the 12 Days of Christmas, but the
Mm-hmm.
rugby version.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, yeah, and there's this one. I don't know if you guys do it. It's the one. It's like it goes. I'm assuming I can swear on here. Is that okay if I curse?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But it's the one, I can't even remember the words, but it's where you split your team into two, and you're like singing at each other, and you
I
start really
already
low. It's
yeah.
like shit damn, fuck it damn, fuck it damn, fuck. And it's like that's and that one,
I
it's
already
really
knew what
funny
you
'cause
were talking about.
recently in Corpus Christi, we were playing beach rugby, and I had like gone out to the sea to just like clean off the sand, and I was just sitting there, and I looked back, and I just heard this sudden screaming, and Round Rock Rage were doing it at each other, like
Mm-hmm.
screaming this song at each other, and I was just like in the sea watching them, and there was just like the beach was full of people and families, and they were like all looking like, what is going on? And they had
Yeah.
people on each other's shoulders, and they're like yelling at each other, and it's like they're just about to have this massive fight. And yeah, they're a team in like North Austin. Oh my god, they're so fun, and they're a wonderful club that's just built over the last couple of years. And they like make everything uniquely their own, and they have they're just a wonderful club. They're really, and they're one of the only clubs I've ever heard of. It's a women's club that's thinking about starting a men's club, because they actually left their original club in Austin.
Wow.
Okay.
They left their original club in Austin because they weren't getting the support they needed. There was a lot of transphobia. There was a lot of homophobia that they were experiencing, and they went and created their own club. And yeah, they have tons of women out of practice now, and they're thinking about making a men's club, which is really cool. So it'll be a very inclusive environment, and I'm so proud of them, watching them, what they've done. So
I love that.
yeah,
I'm so
but
glad
yeah,
I asked that
that kind
question.
of trailed off. Sorry, I went off on a
No,
tangent.
that's awesome. I love that. Yeah. No, it's so important, and that's one thing that is so huge about rugby, is that inclusivity piece.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you mentioned it, like we were talking about women and body positivity, but and of course in the beginning about how gay our teammates are and
Oh
pouring
yeah.
that what and stuff like that. And it's funny because it's so easy for us to say, but it's kind of like, like people listening might just be like, is that real? Is that real? Is that okay to say? But in
Uh-huh.
our community, it's like, no, yeah. And I say it all the time. I'm like, oh yeah, the majority of my friends are gay. It's cool.
Yeah.
Just things like that, because in that culture, it is so inclusive. And I say it very easily, but it really just is so inclusive. And people come in, like you said, with varying identities and
Mm-hmm.
histories and all these things, and we're just like, okay.
Yeah.
Not
I
that we
always
want to hear you and we want to know who you are and know those histories if you're comfortable with sharing, but regardless
mhm.
of what it is, we are going to be. So it's just kind of like, yeah, sure, welcome.
Yeah.
Like, tell us
I
about it after practice at the bar, right?
Right,
So,
exactly. Yeah. And I think I just, on that point, I definitely want to add in that, like, I always, when you're making fun of your friends or self-deprecating
mm-hmm,
like humor and stuff like that, I've had so many men say things to me like, oh, how can you call your teammates gay and I can't make a lesbian joke about the women's team? And I'm like, because that's punching down, and it's
mm-hmm,
important, like the power dynamic when you are making jokes and making fun of people is like a very fine line to walk.
mm-hmm,
And for me, like, I have so many, like, more of my friends are part of the LGBT community than not.
yeah,
I am very immersed in it, and I have all these teammates, and they, and it's not about like having permission to make those jokes. It's
mm-hmm,
about that truly is our lived experience. I'm part of this community. I'm part of, like, my teammates make these jokes about themselves, and we're women. We're not, they know that when we make these jokes about our teammates, not coming from a bad place, it's not coming from, we're not stereotyping them, we're not,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
it's part of our lived experience. Whereas a man outside of our community, if they make that same joke, we know they're not making it
The
in the
intention,
nicest way, and it's like you're
yeah,
punching down, like, you can't make these jokes. I can't. And I think that goes
yeah,
for so many things and so many different, like,
Yeah.
communities
mm-hmm,
or groups that are oppressed in any kind of way. Like, you have to be
mm-hmm,
very careful about, you don't never ever punch down. That's kind of my
mm-hmm,
comedic rule for myself, is
mm-hmm,
I just, I will make fun of my teammates because I see myself on the same level as them, and they make
mm-hmm,
so much fun of me. So yeah, I guess to other people who are listening, it might seem like, oh yeah, like, oh, how can she say that? But yeah, it's very
mm-hmm,
much, we're just so immersed in that community and the sport, the world of sports, and my teammates just, yeah, I'm gonna make fun of them. Yeah.
mm-hmm. I think it just goes to show, like, we talk about teammates, we talk about culture, we talk about how many people are involved. I don't know if people really understand how close we are and how tight
Mm-hmm.
knit we are. And yeah, just how much we really would, how much we do go through together
Mm-hmm.
on the pitch is just one example of that, right? But,
Yeah.
but other examples, just, I don't, I don't know, the amount of things that we have to do as a club, and you really do become best friends.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of how you treat your best friends and how you talk
Yeah,
to your
I
best
know. We all
friends.
just, yeah.
So It really is the same. I know we've kind of drilled it into the ground at this point, but that's really what it is how close we are and how tight knit we are. But I have a couple more fun questions to throw at you. Is that
Okay.
all good?
Mm-hmm.
So just two more fun ones. So do you think, or I guess I can ask, what do you think is the most undervalued position in rugby, if
The
there is one?
undervalued position, the most undervalued position. I automatically just want to say my own position because I
Yeah.
find myself so valuable. I think the most undervalued position, I don't know. So to be fair, fullback is such an important position, and I feel like it's often an afterthought. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well,
You're
we
just
found our
there
back
if
line.
we
Who's
can't
left?
do what we, yeah.
So yeah, who's back that's left, and that we can kind of maybe trust to put out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say fullback. There's so much pressure on you, and
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
have to read the field. You have to constantly be screaming at people.
Talking. Yep.
You have to insert when possible. You have to. I mean, if your teammates aren't doing their job and they let someone past, you're the last line of
Yeah.
defense, and
Yeah.
you're never necessarily in the best position to do it, and you have to chase. Yeah,
Yep.
it's so much pressure, and I don't play fullback a lot, but I did tear my ACL when I played fullback, so that's like my experience with it when we were like
Mm-hmm.
down two players and I was swinging. I think I was playing
Yeah.
wing and fullback, and we were 13 on 15, and it was exhausting. Especially fullback is the worst position when the teams are really mismatched. Like
Yeah. Yep.
they're just breaking the line over and over, and you're just like, just take me off, coach, please. I need to nap.
I don't want to do
Yeah,
this anymore.
I'd say fullback.
I need to nap. I
I
love
just
that.
yeah.
I love the unwritten rule, and like when we have, so I know we're not talking about a lot of rugby rules, and I kind of actually really like that we're very rugby specific now, because now it's like, go watch. Now you have to go watch
Yes.
if you want to figure out what we're talking about a little bit. But well, I was gonna say the unwritten rule when we do have rolling subs is like, if you score a try, you get a break. And
Okay,
it's like,
I like
so
that rule.
it's
Yeah.
like, oh, they scored, get her out, get her out. Like,
Yeah.
because we do have the rolling subs, so they can come back in later. We're like, you earned it. Yeah. Like they
Yep.
run down the field and we're like, get her water, get her out.
Yeah.
But which, of course, in actual rugby or when we, when we're playing officially, you could never do that. But
Right. Yeah.
that's so funny when you said take a nap. That's what reminded me.
Yeah,
But
I'm playing in a game that has rolling subs, like I am never gonna be the hero that just fights to stay on and doesn't use the subs. Nah,
no,
I'm gonna run
gonna
a
take
couple
that
times
advantage.
and put it all out there. I'm gonna make a few tackles, and I'm gonna be the first one that's like,
Yeah.
someone else please come out. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think utilizing your subs is pro tip for sure.
That's funny. I like that you said fullback, just because what I thought of was never. I'm trying to like really quick go through all of my like in-game thought processes, but
Mhm.
I don't think I've ever felt the same way about a fullback as I do any other position, just off the top of my head, in terms of like when I see someone break the line, or especially when it's my fault they broke the line, is you turn around and you're fullback and you're like, please, Danielle. Please,
Yeah.
please, Reptar,
Like,
please, Shark, please, whoever it is. Like, Danielle's, I'm shouting her out because she's the one I've played with the most, just in terms of college and club and everything. But I turn around and I'm like, yes, she got it, and there's no one else on my team. We all do, we all have important roles, but in terms of like, please, like that's going to be your fullback, right?
Oh
And we're
yeah,
all
the
doing
one
our
that
best to get back.
you're
Yeah.
all just like, yeah, 100%.
Yeah. There's no one
Everyone is
else on the team that you're just like,
thinking,
oh,
please make this tackle.
they can do it. They can do it.
Yeah. I also
As
just
we're
love
all
it. You
trying to
might
get
have a
back.
wing also trying to chase
Yes.
after them, but then everyone else is just watching. They're like,
Yeah.
please make it. Because they're like, I'm not going to make it there, so I'm not going to waste my energy.
Yep. There's so many memes where it's like, you're like, oh, God, I hope they make that tackle.
I know.
We're like, I hope someone else gets
And
there.
then it's the panic. It's the panic that if they do make the tackle and we were all standing there just watching.
Now we all have to get back.
Shit, we gotta go.
Yep. I think everyone's felt it before. Yep, at some point. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. All right, I got one more. Where did I put it? Oh, if you could add or eliminate one rule from the game completely, what would it be? These are all Cooties. I knew when I reached out to Cootie, it would be fantastic. She's so creative.
If I could eliminate or add.
Yep.
Oh,
That's a tough one.
It's a
mm,
good one. It's a good one.
I don't know. So like I usually play on the wing
Okay.
or inside or outside center, depending on who I'm playing with. Sorry, I just
Mhm.
like leaned off camera. Like, well, oh gosh, I have never thought of this one before, but I would say because I'm like out there a lot waiting, I would like, us
Mm.
to introduce like instead of scrum, like especially playing D3 and D2 and stuff, there's always a lot of knock-ons and it can be
Mhm.
slow moving sometimes. So there's a lot of scrums, and I would like maybe for something to be added for there to almost be like a quick option, or maybe make it like a free kick for a knock on or something
Mhm.
sometimes, just so that we can keep going. Because I
Yeah, just
love
at
the
that
pace of like
level.
sevens, and sometimes
Yeah.
I just like want to get going, and I get
Mhm.
like, my muscles get cold, especially during the winter, and I'm just hanging out
Mhm.
there. So maybe
Yeah.
that, I don't know. I feel
Okay.
like I could have a funnier answer if I thought more, but like,
Yeah.
I guess just from my perspective as a back, just like to keep the game moving more. Like, and also I feel like the forwards
Mhm.
would be happy with that because they're
I was
getting
gonna say
exhausted.
we would not complain about less scrums.
Yeah, they're getting exhausted
No,
over and over again, and we could do some
no.
kind of like, I don't know what it would actually, something funny would be if they could introduce something that the backs had to do if it was a back that knocked on the ball. And if a forward knocks the ball on, they scrum. If the backs knock it on, we do some kind of like pathetic little version of a scrum. I don't know. We do like a
Uh-huh.
7 scrum. If we
Uh-huh.
knock it, we do like the 6-person scrum. I don't know. Maybe
Uh-huh.
something like that, so we can give the forwards a break and they can stop hating me.
It is so funny because we, again, I would brought it up so many times, but we talk so much about culture and how close we are and making jokes about each other, but no one really truly understands like the back versus forward culture also.
Yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
we've all been in that position where it's like you're in the scrum or on the other side and you like just I'm a prop again, so I'm usually last one and I'm
Mhm.
tight head, so I'm literally the last one like trying to catch my breath, stand up, and you turn around and they just knocked it on. And you're like, you're joking. You're kidding me. So
Yeah.
all we do, there's been so many times where it's like we're on this side of the field, and then we're on this side of the field, and then we're on this.
Mhm.
Like we haven't made any ground. We're just moving side to side, and
Yeah.
so just that it's like we love you guys, but we need to hold on to the ball. Like
Yes.
and
Yes. Right.
keeping
Please
that,
hold on to the ball.
I'm all for that sports psychology, and that's one thing I love about my job is I have a lot of kids who are athletes, and I get to work on that like sports psychology piece and how to keep your temper and not get too angry and things like that.
Mhm.
And it's huge, of course, in rugby because we are so physical. It's like we're
Mhm.
not that line, and I bet men's players would see this differently, but in my head I'm like we're not here to kill them. We're
Yeah.
here like there is technique, there is
Mhm.
finesse to this game,
Yeah.
and just that line of like yeah we're aggressive, but I'm not like if
Mhm.
my attention is on trying to kill this player in front of me, I'm not focused on the next set
Mhm.
and the next couple of plays
Yeah.
and playing as a team and being in the line and things like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, but those are fun questions. I just wanted to get some of those fun, more rugby specific questions out there. But
Those are good.
yeah, they're
Yeah.
fun. Thanks, Ronnie. Any questions, Ronnie?
No, I'm just soaking in everything. It's like I said, it's
Mhm.
all brand new to me, so I'm
Mhm.
just trying to follow as much as possible. And just like you said, Courtney, now I'm forced to watch the game to really
Exactly,
understand it a
exactly.
bit
I
more.
know.
So it's gonna expand my horizons at the same time, which
Mhm.
it's always a blessing to be able to kind of learn a little bit more about something else
Mhm.
and add it to my repertoire. So I don't really
Mhm.
have
We
anything unless
can
if you have anything else, Courtney.
I was gonna say, like I said, she does a really fantastic job of explaining them and explaining rugby, explaining 15s, explaining sevens, the history in a lot of her videos. So
Yeah.
hopefully this will have a lot of people visiting her page and TikTok and Instagram and everything, and also just wanting to see rugby and wanting to see more of what that looks like on various different levels. I just set my schedule for the amateur France tournament over there, and it's like I had to look at it's the whole website's in French, which usually when I'm seeing different tournaments and stuff, you can see I don't know with the World Cup, you know what time things are gonna be on, and you just
Yeah.
check. I see on Peacock and things like that. I'm like, all right, sweet, it's at this time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
This I'm like translating. I'm like, okay, this time equals -9 hours, and I'm like doing and I'm like, okay, I gotta be up at 1 a.m. for this game, and
Oh
things
man.
like that, and just
Yeah.
being, so excited to see different levels of play. So
Mhm.
I want people to get excited about the culture, and again, not necessarily just about playing, but just seeing what else is out there and what
Mhm.
are all these people so passionate about, and where can I find these communities, and just kind of bringing more conversations to to our show, to the podcast, and lots of different. Not every conversation that we have is going to be something that everyone can
Yeah.
relate to. So the more conversations we have, and the more random communities that we talk about, the more communities that people can get involved in, and I'm so excited to be able to bring my community and one that's so special to me to the podcast. So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. And so,
just really
Samantha,
glad
with
we were
that
able to
being
have
said,
her.
I know that as Courtney said, there's you explain the game really well on socials. How are the people able to find you?
Yeah, so I am on Instagram at Sam Love Rugby. And then I'm on TikTok also at Sam Love Rugby. So my name is Samantha Lovett. So you search for that or search for Sam Love Rugby, and I'm there on Instagram and TikTok.
There you guys go. Now, if you want to get involved in rugby, you now know how to find out more about the game. 'Cause that's exactly what I'm going to do. Find out more about it. But you also have a way to get into the game. So be a part of the community, especially if you're interested in it, to expand your horizons. So till
Education.
next time, keep on applying those perspectives, growth, and collaboration. Y'all, I messed that up entirely.